Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Community Podcast, Episode 2. My name is Leaves. I am your Community Ambassador, and today we have an exciting one for you. For the first time on record, we're going to dive into the current season of The Hunt, our thoughts, our expectations, and some of the prep expected for the upcoming and much anticipated Grandmaster Nightfalls Sherpa runs that Chloe will be doing. Before we begin, I want to remind everybody about the community giveaway. We're so close. I think when we checked tonight, we were like 7 away from that $65
Yep.
giveaway. And remember, guys, we want Chloe to spend money. So, make sure we're subscribed to that, and let's get that taken care of and finished up here. And remember, the prize has changed from Cyberpunk to any game of the winner's choice of a $65 or less value. All right.
Yes, sir.
And like I said, once we reach 100 subscribers. So, once again, today I'm joined by Chloe, our community leader, and Mouse Capone, our fearless mod. And we're gonna be talking, just like I said, about the start with the season of the hunt. So, where do you guys think this season stands in comparison to the first season of Shadowkeep? Because I think that's the best comparison with the season thing being only about a year old. Um, how do you guys feel so far? It's living up to the expectations that have been set up by Bungie.
To
I
me,
mean, go for it.
this season is in if you look at if you compare it just with Season of the Undying from Shadowkeep, it is a shadow of a doubt. Like it is horrible. It does not have the same amount of content. The weapons and things that drop aren't interesting. Um, it doesn't feel like I know they're trying to set up a new kind of like story arc with it with Crow and everything, but it just doesn't resonate well. The doing the hunts is boring. It's just okay, you just go around and grind the same activities you've been doing, and then you do something different for maybe about 5 minutes, and that's it. And as for content, that is the only content loop that exists within Destiny right now. And compared to past seasons, it is just very sad. It's depressing how little content there is in this season to do. Um, Once you've gotten a good roll on your weapons and you've gotten if you even want to use the weapons, and you get the armor pieces that you want, there's nothing to do with it anymore. I wouldn't go and do hunts in my free time just for the heck of it. It isn't worth doing.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I don't know how we got here after even Season of the Undying, which was kind of okay. It was still kind of light, but the activity was 100 times better. The feeling, the only thing I wish they would have done different, because they changed the final boss, right? That's where the whole seasonal activity culminated, where the final boss of that activity changed. We were all kind of secretly hoping that we could go through that big ass portal that was being built and go and fight,
Oh yeah.
the Undying Mind. That would have been awesome. But still 100 times better than what these hunts are, and what we're doing right now. And weapon wise, I think there's only one that's interesting, and that's definitely Whisper, because you can get Ambitious Assassin, which is awesome to have on a special grenade launcher. Like you can do some serious damage with that. And essentially, once you have it, you're able to have two in the mag at all times. Um, but I can't help but think about like other seasons that we've had where the activities have been incredible, and you'd feel like they could use that programming and coding that they have, and duplicate it maybe in an easier way than what it is. And what I'm referring to is obviously the best one ever is Menagerie. Like, incredible seasonal activity, and probably will never get something that good as a seasonal activity again. But the second one was Sundial, which was like a mini Menagerie, but it still had targeted farms, and it still had three different distinct areas and activities. And I don't know, Season of the Dawn was so dry and kind of boring, but it had that activity which was 100 times better than this, and it had that incredible puzzle, which was a big womp on the reward, but the puzzle was pretty cool. We were all hoping it was going to be the new Zero Hour or Whisper mission, but I don't know how we go from that to this,
I was
because
taking even a step back even further. Remember I remember distinctly back when we were on Blizzard. Remember the first day of Season of the Drifter, where we played for maybe about 3 hours and like, well, this was interesting.
I
Boot
do.
up Siege, and then we
Yeah.
played Siege the day of a release. The day of a release.
Yeah.
That is obscene for
Yeah.
Destiny, for people that play it like we do, to flip flop on it on the same day it comes out.
Yeah.
I could not believe that. But
Especially we're waiting for the releases. We're like aching for it. Like,
yes,
I need this fix. Like, give me.
and even with the way that they did Season of the Drifter, even with all the problems that Reckoning had, Reckoning was still an interesting regrindable activity because it was chaotic. At least it was interesting to some degree, but the hunts just aren't interesting. They just don't have anything exciting. They don't have any pull to them. It's just like,
I mean,
do
it's
hunt.
less than a lost sector. It's less than a lost sector. Let's be real.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a lost sector with mechanics that are boring. That's
Yeah.
it.
It's so weird. It's so weird, man. And I don't know. I don't see why. Look, again, let's use Sundial, right? And let's not talk about Menagerie. It's too big. But Sundial seems like a realistic expectation to have something of that size. And sure, this has targeted farming. That's fine. You know, that's nice that they're including it. I'll even say so, man. Rasputin and his event was better than this, even though it was
Oh my
boring.
god.
But it was better, right?
No, you're
It was
right.
still better.
It was at least something. It was cool to see the chaos of like 7 or 8 people running around and doing that public event, having
Exactly.
the big giant warframe run around and shoot missiles at things. Like
Was it Millie? We called yours?
yeah, Millie,
Millie.
yeah, Millie, and then we had Silly for Savage.
Yeah.
But
Killy for me, but
and Killy for you. But that's the thing, is that this isn't exciting. This isn't interesting. It's like there's some cool lore building and stuff in here that you have for Crow, but like, let's even take it a step back. So Season of the Hunt starts, like the story starts from the result of Osiris going through and doing research on the seeds or whatever, right? Sagira, who was a huge character in Curse of Osiris, dies off screen. Like, holy crap. Like, this is supposed to be the culmination of like these two characters. Like, the conclusion of her story arc ends off screen. If they're trying to keep us involved with characters and story, like, I don't know, they should think about I guess picking and choosing better what needs to happen on screen in their games. I can understand the whole like lore thing being in like the books and the things you read in your cards or whatever, but
well, those are climactic moments. Like, those are big moments. I agree.
But specifically though, the Season of the Undying, if I remember correctly, was just all they really released was the Vex mission that where you went to the moon.
The activity.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Now the thing is that
there were a couple more. Sorry to interrupt. There were a couple more like random events that were happening on the moon.
Yes.
Spawning, but it was that one. I forget the name of the activity, but there was one main activity that you launched into. It was match made, 6 people, I believe, and you know it had its little rotation and then final boss, and you know it was still nice compared to this.
What if let's say like this, if we were going to look at something like Season of the Undying compared to Season of the Hunt, the amount of improvement you would need to see from Season of the Hunt to be equal to Season of the Undying is an insane gap. Like the beginning of Shadowkeep compared to the beginning of Beyond Light here, the lack of content and lack of like regrindable things to do is just the disparity is huge. I can't believe it. The only thing that really you can regrind if it's something new you want to do is just the raid.
Well, keep in mind as the Season of Hunt progresses, we are getting a grindable Hawkmoon quest. So I know we're trying to draw
Big
comparisons here. Yeah, big whoop.
Yeah.
Some of us really like Hawkmoon. But when I think about Season of the Undying and compare it to this, I'm having a hard time seeing a difference and telling you which one I like better.
Well, Season of the Undying, like if you are you talking about just the seasons, or you want to talk about the releases as well?
I'm
Like,
specifically talking about the season apart from, because we can talk about which is better, Beyond Light or Shadowkeep. I think they're both just nostalgia
well,
trips.
well,
Um,
when you look at the activities alone, how can you compare the activity from Season of the Undying to the Wrathborn hunts? How does that even remotely compare in size and replayability? Who do you ever invite to go with you on a Wrathborn hunt? You're like, ah, fuck, I gotta do this to get my pinnacle. I need this weapon, and let me just get it over with. You know,
That
who the fuck would you
6-man
bring
match
to do
made
it?
activity, which was in Season of the Undying, felt more like an additional raid than it did a seasonal activity.
It's
Like,
like a 6-man strike, if you
a big
find a middle.
group of people doing a lost sector. I will agree with that. And now that I think about it, that was enjoyable. But I don't. I no. I do dread doing the hunts. But I I am hopeful that this season has more to offer yet, because I don't see a big disparity between the two, like you guys
On
are
the
describing.
roadmap, there's nothing left. That's the problem. On the roadmap, I think there's like at the end of December or first week of January, the whole discover the secrets is over with from the roadmap. So that's why I'm a little bit skeptical. You know,
what I think we'll see by the end of this season is we're going to have the last big thing will be the Eververse event for Crimson Days, and we'll probably have like one or two, maybe one or two missions left for Crow based on some data mine stuff. But as for rewards and as for things that are coming out, I don't have a lot of hope for this season over other ones in the past. Put it like that.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
All right.
we talked a lot about the season here. I want to dive in just a little bit deeper, but get some more some broader ideas from you guys. So, if Bungie were listening, right? So if we had Bungie's ear, the seasonal weapons, right? For especially specifically for the season of the hunt, should these weapons have a stronger effect because of the sunsetting system now? Should they have a stronger effect on the current meta, whether that be PVE or PvP?
1000%.
Yeah.
I use Warzone a lot for comparisons, right? When we talk, because that's my second most played game currently, and if we look at what they do when they release new content, the new guns that come out are meta shifting, not affecting. They change the meta every time, and it encourages people to use the new weapons. For obviously, it's a business move on their part, makes people buy the new season, etc. But yes, it should change the meta every single time. I think that's how you can feel that things are powerful, and that's how people will feel okay with leaving stuff behind. Is the only way, because if new stuff is coming out and it's all just meh, then how do you justify leaving the good stuff behind and you're left with just kind of muddy water?
So if you look at the seasonal weapons that come out that are out, not including exotics, not including things like duality and etc. But we have a scout rifle, an SMG, and two grenade launchers. And the
And
only thing,
you have the linear fusion.
oh, and the linear fusion rifle. When I look at all of those weapons compared to what I'm using in real endgame content, and even just running around and having fun, none of those make my list. They are infusion tools and infusion materials only. As Close said before, Ambitious Assassin on the special grenade launcher, awesome. That's a really cool addition, a really cool perk. But the only reason you farm that gun is to have that perk on that weapon. Like,
Mhm.
you can farm it for other roles, but that's the only one that really stands out. It's the only thing that makes it really unique, and it's the second waveform grenade launcher we've seen, which is cool. But that's the only thing I see that's unique out of it. There are some cool new perks on the gun, like there's one on the heavy grenade launcher where when you get kills, things explode.
Or the chain
It's
reaction or
like,
whatever, chain link.
yeah, exactly, and that's cool. But I'm not going to take it over something with Vorpal. Like, I will use it with something with Vorpal weapon over that every single time, because when I'm popping out the big heavy weapon, I'm not using it for ad clear. I'm using it for DPS.
Mhm.
And the only thing that I can see that's different than that now is think about last encounter of Deepstone Crypt, where a lot of the time we're running double special, single heavy, and you're using your heavy for ad clear. you run a heavy machine gun for that, because why would I limit my ammo when I could be using a heavy machine gun to kill the enemies in Deepstone Crypt? It's
100%.
these weapons. If Bungie wants people to use their new weapons and have them be more interested in them, they need to just up the damage on everything and get rid of all the damage perks, or they need to make more interesting combinations with these weapons. Like what were so there were pinnacle weapons, if you remember, that was the original thing for like mountaintop and all that jazz. What were the ones called
Pursuits.
after that?
The
The
ritual,
Pursuit
whatever.
weapons.
Yeah, the ritual
Rituals,
weapons.
Yep.
Now, the ritual weapons, I think that is still fantastic. Like that was the most interesting thing to me when they got rid of pinnacle weapons. Like, oh, it's kind of a bummer, but ritual weapons were cool. Like, I use Komodo for the example. Komodo was my bread and butter when it came out. And a shotgun with overflow. That was awesome. It had like 9 rounds in the magazine. You could up it even further with a backup mag, and that was sick. But nothing that has come out this season kind of compares. Even Adored is just kind of like, oh, it's a sniper with triple tap Vorpal. It's a good weapon, but it's not interesting. They fail with their weapons, especially the seasonal ones, where they want to make things interesting, but they're not good. They need to kind of level that out where it's like, oh, like this is actually a very useful weapon and it's kind of cool. But
which is weird because they released some good weapons in the raid that have cool perks and that are strong. You know, so
yes,
it's in the game. You came out with it at the same time. You know?
Yep.
It's weird.
Maybe they're trying to create contrast.
Yeah,
I
I think that that's the thing, is that they won't. I mean, maybe they have come out and said it. I can't remember. Well, I know they want to move away from the damage amp perks, like things like Rampage, things like Vorpal, all those things. They want to try to kind of back that off and add the new perks, but they just don't understand that as long as those exist and can be used, the people will use them over every other perk, because every other thing is situational. Like Thresh is a really cool idea. It's like pseudo bad juju perk where kills give you extra super energy. That's a really good perk, but it's not better than me getting amp damage. It's not better than me doing more damage to bosses. Like,
it would only be better if they increased how much, like if it was kind of almost a ridiculous amount of how much super energy you get back per kill. It's all,
yeah,
like you got to turn it up a little bit and make it interesting. Because if I'm gaining 10%, I don't know the math. I'm just saying, if I'm getting 10% per kill, and then I use this to gain 12% per kill, well, I don't need it. I just need one extra kill, and I just made up for the difference, right? Why would I be using this? And you know, it's hard. I don't know why they're so scared of letting loose. We talked about this a little bit last podcast, but yeah, they're definitely playing it safe over and over again.
yeah.
On the seasonal pass, really fast. Just a quick yes or no, you like or you don't. Maybe a brief explanation. Seasonal armor.
Nope.
Pretty good looking. You like
Nope.
it. This is purely a cosmetic question because I know these things can have whatever role they want. But I think they're hideous.
Clear enough. I thought I was clear enough with that.
Nope. Everybody thinks they're hideous.
But
All right.
The only
ugliest-
thing I liked was the hunter chest piece and hunter arms. Everything else is boogers. I mean, I can be a dinosaur as the Titan with my crest coming above my head.
I think it's absolutely awful. I don't know. Somebody on the design team needs to get fired, and whoever is approving these designs needs to get a rain check. Like, oh my god, it's awful. It's so terrible.
The disparity between seasonal armor and ornaments that have come out since the seasonal stuff started is obscene. Like, look at
last
this.
season's too was really fugly. Remember last season? Like, it was terrible.
But you go back to Season of the
Undying.
Dawn. Yeah, Season of the Undying, that looked great. All the Vex theme stuff was awesome.
I love those.
Season of the Dawn, I don't think I'll ever use another Titan helmet ever again. It's like I could be State 14 anytime I want to, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And they just their art direction for what they're doing is really weird. Like, Undying made sense because it was like, oh, we're gonna do a Vex season, and this is where all the Vex season ornaments are coming from.
I agree.
And I
I mean, the
understand like
season of the hunt makes sense. There's covered in
the hive.
bones, like the Monster Hunter theme.
It
Yes,
makes sense. It's just really ugly. That's all.
just
I agree.
It's
I
just
agree.
really
if you
ugly.
compare the hive ornaments from season of the hunt compared to like the ornaments from Destiny 1,
Oh,
which were hive related for those like
dude.
the Age of Triumph, like
So
those were
horrible.
insane, like the Crota, like the green energy
I
stuff
was
going
just gonna say
everywhere.
the Crota raid armor to me is still one of my favorite armors to date. Like, I don't know. I don't know how they went from having all this cool design to now. And it was somebody in our community. I think it was Cleeks who mentioned. He was like, they got rid of all those teams. It's a whole different team designing it right now, which is unfortunate
And this
because
whole team plays Monster Hunter.
Yeah, right. Yeah, honestly, yeah.
Guys,
Clearly.
specifically the people listening, put your ideas on what you think if you like this season's armor. We want to hear about. We want to hear what your thoughts were. Don't listen to Chloe. Best comment will get a shout out for sure because we'll keep an eye out for it. But I know this is controversial, so we want to hear from you guys too. Uh, Really quick, I want to zero in on something that everybody talks about. Neither they love it or they hate it, or everybody hates it, or they kind of like it. We actually had a conversation today in the raid about duality. So I'd like to zero in on seasonal exotic weapons. Um, we all, has their favorite seasonal weapon. I think the one that we get talk about the most because we do Sherpas for Clota Sherpas for the GMs is Ariana's Vow. It came from a seasonal. There's weapons like the Fourth Horseman and this season's Duality. Um, these weapons are they actually usable? Are they actually good? Do we think they should be better? Do we think they're not really ever meta breaking? Do they need to be better, or are they doing exactly what Bungie wants them to do, and you think it should stay the same?
I think you have
So
the same issue as what we talked about just now about the season of the hunt weapons. It's underwhelming. Ariana's is an outlier. It's a fantastic gun that is original, but the other ones,
Ariana's was really weird because it like when it came out, we're like, oh, it's a special hand cannon that shoots like a train. Like that's really cool, and it can
mhm.
do things to these new champion enemies, whatever they are. And then we were like, well, this thing is actually pretty crappy in general play, and we're not fighting champions all the time, so into the vault it goes.
Mm-hmm.
But then once the Grandmasters came out, it was like, oh my god, we got to get something that you can shoot farther away and actually deal with these barrier champs. And we're like, well, Ariana's does that,
Yeah.
and so Ariana's just like I felt was like the cycle of the moon almost, and it came out in the new moon where like it's just black, just completely unusable. Not unusable as that like oh this doesn't work, but it didn't have a real function.
Yeah, to be
Um,
used for an exotic slot, it wasn't worth it whatsoever
no,
outside of the GMs.
but then it came back around to GMs, and it was like this is what we needed. And like this was the gun that was like, oh, we can beat anything with this. As long as you have ammo for it, you can win. And that was great. But the thing is that the other seasonal exotics that have come out, they kind of have all fallen flat to a regard, except for Witherhoard. Witherhoard was weird. Witherhoard was something that nobody expected. It's just like,
Yeah,
what is this kinetic grenade launcher that shoots blights, does AoE damage on the ground, and then infects enemies and makes more blights? Like that. That is Bungie at
awesome
its
one.
best. Like that. That is a weapon that is fun. That is a weapon that is usable, and it is a weapon that is strong. And I mean, obviously, it's had its own like little bits of balance tweaks here or there, but even now, it's still so much fun to use.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I
but
agree.
then if you kind of dial it back though and look at our other weapons, we have things like symmetry, which is like symmetry boils up and it can hit really hard when you have it working right. Same with duality. Duality is interesting because it's the first shotgun that can switch between those two different archetypes of slug and pellets. And those like both of those have their uses, but since they are exotic, they're not worth taking up the slot for other things.
Yeah.
Like like, why would I use symmetry over something like Eyes of Tomorrow? Why would I use symmetry or duality over something like Wither Horde or Anarchy? You
Well, you don't
don't.
have Eyes of Tomorrow, so
That's true.
Oh,
I don't have Eyes of Tomorrow.
oh
Yet.
man,
Yeah,
that was
sorry.
cold.
You laid it
God,
out.
I'm in
Knock
I'm in
it down.
Wisconsin and it's
Knock
cold.
it
That was
down.
cold, dude. Ouch.
Love you, meow. Sorry. Sorry.
Oh, I want to fire
Sorry.
back with something, but I think it's too mean. Never mind. Anyway, so we have the like this big batch of exotics that are from the seasons and from seasons past, from old expansion things, that are just sitting here doing nothing. Like peacekeepers. Have you ever heard of what peacekeepers are? Do you guys know what peacekeepers do? Without looking it up?
No,
Collections. Are you
it's a
talking,
titan. It's a titan.
Collections,
It's a
yeah.
talking
Titan
about
gear.
piece, or are you talking about piece? Like, oh, here, this
Is
is
it that Titan
like
equipment?
a piece.
It is a Titan pair of pants that increases the equip speed and stow speed of SMGs.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all it does. And there
Sucks.
are more exotics like that exist in the game than you'd think. You just forget about them because you delete them or put them in your vault of their collections. That's it.
I agree. They made them gimmicky instead of actually useful. Every once in a while, we get a good one, and like with a horde, and we can talk about all. Not, it doesn't have to be seasonal exotics. You know, Lament is fantastic. You know, but like you said,
Well,
duality.
I'm talking about seasonal because it ties into the whole theme.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I mean more like the conversation spans over to all exotics. There are too many gimmicky exotics because they probably feel pressure that we have to put out X amount of exotics. It would be much better if they took these gimmicky ones, toned them down, and turned them into legendaries that you earn from specific activities and something like.
Yep.
Just bring them back down, both weapons and armor that have these perks, and just tone it way down and make it legendaries. That would be much smarter move than useless exotics that, like Meow said, will never be used because you can only use one. You know what I mean? So never gonna happen.
Yeah, the seasonal exotic problem is still in the same vein as the exotic problem for the game. There's plenty to use, but there's also at the same time nothing to use at all, because they all fall into the same camp of, are these good in end game content, and are these fun to use? And if it doesn't work in either of those two things, they just sit in your vault or get deleted. And they take up a big chunk of the game when you're looking at gear and exotics and stuff. That, if they were going to keep sunsetting things, I would almost say, look at that.
Yeah.
If that's really the route they want to keep
And
going.
even furthermore, I always thought about this, but Fallen Guillotine enabled a whole lot of other exotics to be used in end game content because of Fallen Guillotine's power. If you didn't have that last season or even this season, there's just so, like, you wouldn't use Wither Horde that much as you might use it now. You wouldn't use Trinity Ghoul as much as you use it now or last season. Like all these different exotics that exists that are actually being used now thanks to Fallen Guillotine. So
yes,
yeah, and that to me, it has like an exotic feel to it. Fallen Guillotine does have an exotic feel to it. And that's kind of what I'm touching on, is like, tone them down and make less exotics, make cool legendaries that are specific drops from it could be the strike loot. Like, it could be so simple as just strike loot, you know?
I would almost have, let's say this, I think this is just kind of where this is coming to. I would rather have more unique loot and less of it than more loot that's just cookie cutter with the same perks and everything.
Yeah,
I agree, but I'm that, plus the fact that they have a solution at hand for their kind of mediocre legendary loot, and it is literally, if they could look at any player's vault and it's all sitting there, stuff that is used by 0.01% of the player base, turn those perks into legendary perks, both armor and weapons, and throw them in the game as legendaries, because they're not true exotics. Otherwise, they would be used.
So that still kind of gives us the problem with all of our seasonal stuff, is that the seasonal items, be it armor, weapons, exotics, or whatever, they are pass fail for the community. They're either good and everybody uses them, or they're bad and they just get left behind. And I think that's the problem, is that with the way that Bungie has their systems in place and the way that they do their releases and the way that they kind of generate their content, the items that you use are pass fail. And as long as they keep that mantra going, this content that they shell out is just going to be pretty hollow and shallow, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I think that's actually a perfect segue into our next my next point I wanted to talk about. So as we are aware, when you buy the big DLC, so Beyond Light, Shadowkeep, so on and so forth, there's a cost for the season pass built into it, right? And that cost, in order to buy the season, it costs $10. So we'll spend $40 a year as a player who plays every season, purchasing the next 4 seasons. That's so $10 per season. Is there enough value for the player to purchase that? I mean, for you to sit there as a content creator, and for us to continue to push this content out, and for Meow to be a mod and say, hey, this is the game we play and this is why we play. Is there actually enough value to say buy the next season?
I mean, there is. I mean, $10 is not an arm and a leg. Even though we're sitting here, we're dissecting it, and we're not happy because we've seen so much better, because we know what they can do and what they've done in the past. But yeah, $10 is not a bad investment for a little bit of a new activity, some new storylines, a few new weapons, new cosmetics. Like it is. It makes sense. Plus, any battle pass in any game, the extra loot that you get, the seasonal boost, the XPs, like that all has dollar value attached to it as well, at least in my opinion. So I don't think the $10 is crazy for it.
No, Chloe's right. If you look at it this way, as a new player, let's say if I was buying Beyond Light in the season just to kind of hop in as a fresh player, it's worth it because the extra stuff you get from the season pass and the armor and weapons and everything, it's good. It's a good boost. It'll give you something to kind of grind for, something to kind of look for. And I can say that I've confidently spent at least 10 hours doing Season of the Hunt content. And I'm like $10 for 10 hours worth of entertainment. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I mean, I buy a pizza for $15 and it gives me about 30 seconds worth of entertainment. So it's like, yeah.
Slow down.
But yeah. So if you're an existing player, the way that I feel a lot of us look at seasons are, what are the good bits that I pull out of this season that are useful? And if you are a current player that is somebody who plays like 20 hours a week and just goes crazy, and you're really still thinking about buying this season, if you're looking at the good bits, what you can get from it is Hawkmoon, you can get Duality, and you can get the grenade launcher, the new waveform grenade launcher with Ambitious Assassin. And all three of those things are fairly interesting. I think just for $10, like those three things are worth looking at and playing with. Just as like alongside all the other stuff for the season. So just those three things are probably worth about $10. So the rest of it, the rest of the content you'll be doing, like take it or leave it, but the good parts of this season are good, are interesting at least. So that's worth the $10.
Nope. You heard it here first, guys. The $10 has a community stamp of approval. So yeah, invest and play with us. So last question before we wrap it up for the night, guys. And this is really just kind of wrapped around the upcoming Sherpaing that we're doing for the Grandmasters. Probably the hardest event that Chloe does Sherpaing for, and we're all grateful. Me specifically, because that's how I met you, Chloe, on a random LFG post that I didn't even find, somebody else found and dragged me along with.
Right.
Shout out to Angel.
I remember. Yep, Angel.
So and I imagine a lot of the communities found you that way, and it's a fantastic way to grow. And so I'd like to kind of dig into a few things about these runs.
Yeah.
So the first one being, what are some expectations you have for the carry, the person you're not carrying? I apologize, not carry, Sherpaing through these runs. What are some expectations you have for them besides the obvious being able to enter the event?
Yeah, I mean, it's really just be able to take direction. It's not that. It's the whole point of like when I started doing the Sherpa runs is to counteract how toxic LFGs can be and how hard it can be. And even today we were rating with a guy, and for his sake we won't mention his name, but words that came out of his mouth at one point, I was like, "Oh, why didn't you say something?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm usually a bit quiet when I'm around people that I don't know, right?" Because he's probably been in asshole groups, excuse my French, on LFG that have treated him like garbage, and it's not it's not fun. You know what I mean? People are still human beings at the end of the day, and I get those kind of messages from my community, which is heartwarming because they'll hear somebody say something and they'll be like, "See, that's the reason why I'm so scared of playing with random groups, people talking like that or acting like that." And you get it. At the end of the day, even though we are socializing, we're also all introverts. Like, we're all online. We're not out socializing. There's a reason for that. So my expectations are very, very simple. It's just be able to take direction, and usually anybody that has grinded their level up to be ready for grandmasters, because it's not something that just happens, they tend to have all the exotics, they tend to have decent armor, they tend to have most of the mods. It's stuff you can work around and figure out. So genuinely, it's just, be open to taking directions, and learning and listening to commands, because these, in the GMs, it's just kind of a process to me. Like, being meticulous, taking things in the right order, that gets you there. Simple as that. That's at least what worked for me to be able to Sherpa last season as many times as we did, and so many different people at different skill levels and skill gaps. That's how we did it. Yeah.
Awesome. Um, is there, and just, I know you said this before in stream, and you've said this to almost everybody you've ever Sherpa'd, but just so it's out there, and new people looking at this video trying to see what you're all about. Do you have a skill level requirement? I mean, we're not looking for KDs. You're not looking for anything like that. Could you go into a little bit detail of what your expectations are for that are, so that people, it's very clear?
Yeah. Have the game installed on your PC. Have an account, and have a character made at an appropriate level. That's it. Be human. I don't know. That's it's so. It literally just, everybody's welcome, man. We've figured it out with everybody that has come across our plate, even people that have been 50, 60 levels under, that can't do damage to a single enemy, still taking them through activities. And me and Meow in Prophecy last season, like, I remember those. And honestly, for the right activities, not like raids and stuff, that's tough, but for the right activities, it's kind of fun. Provides an extra challenge for me and for Meow when we've done it together, and for whoever else. It becomes a little bit entertaining because we've done those activities to the point where they're muscle memory, you know. Like, I always, the funniest one is when we would do dungeon nights in last season, and Pit of Heresy would come across.
Oh man,
I
those were
think,
funny.
yeah. So I know world record Pit of Heresy is like 5 minutes. Or, okay, Warlocks with World Line Zero when it was busted, but I don't care. That doesn't count. It's not a 5 minute dungeon. But we still cleared it in, like, I think it was 11. It was 12 minutes and something like that. Like,
It was
11 minutes.
we hit
Right
under
there.
12. I think it was 11:56 was our fastest time. About just it's like, all right, buddy, the person who you bring in. Have you ever done this before? No. Do you want to really learn? Not really. I just kind of want to get the drops and get the pinnacle. Okay,
Cool.
buckle up. And we just would go, and it
Fly
would be.
through it.
It's like, just really quickly, just like knowing. It's weird when you play. I mean, everybody who has a group they play with will eventually get to the point where you know what your teammates will do before they do it. And
Yeah.
after playing with Chloe for 6 years, we are pretty much at a 97% success rate of that kind of interpersonal knowledge when playing as a team together.
Yeah.
And if you can get like that with other people that you want to play with more, you can do anything in any game, and it just becomes significantly easier.
Yep. I agree.
Awesome. So, as you're aware, everybody's aware in the stream probably too, and if you're watching, in the last 2 weeks, so this is episode 2, and this is being filmed on the December 30th. We've incorporated a raffle system in order to take care of the queue for the community. Makes things quick, efficient. You can get in, you can get out. Hopefully, cuts down some of the Clo looking for you part of it, so we can get into the excruciating long explaining the mod selection.
Yeah.
So I want to just give you last second here before we close out here today, just to um, some advice to somebody before they enter a raffle, what those minimum expectations are. I know we've talked about light level. I know we've talked about make sure the game's installed. Um, is there is there anything else mod wise or anything that you could think of that advice wise you can give to somebody or
No, it's more, if you're there, that's what the whole point of the raffle was, is to avoid that. Because what was happening is, my time is limited too, unfortunately. I wish I could spend all day and night here with you guys and keep helping people, but that's not the case. So every minute counts. And when we're doing, 30, 40-minute activities, we need every minute that we can get to do more runs and get more people through. So what used to happen was, okay, we get done with an activity, who's in queue, reach out to these people. Oh, let's give him 5 minutes to respond. He didn't respond. Let's move down the queue, give him 5 minutes, because you can't send the message and expect them to respond in 1 minute either. You got to give people time to respond if they're just in a queue. And what ended up happening is, next thing you know, 30 minutes has gone by the time I get the next run lined up. And then we talk and get set up, and then we go into the activity. So then it's over an hour per run. And this way, it requires people to be in stream watching and participating in the raffle actively, so they know they can't even enter the raffle in any other way than actively entering it. And that way we should remove that and cut down the time quite a lot. And I think we saw that tonight, even when we were doing the raids, and we had 2 people per raid. They went relatively quick. It was a 3-minute raffle window, and we got 2 players each time, and it was no problem at all.
Also encourages more community interaction too, because while you're kind of waiting in the chat, like you'll play the games that we have all set up. We have like the raid simulation. We actually technically have 2 raid
I love that,
simulations
man.
now.
Thank you so much, Meow, for that one. Those who haven't yet. So he's talking about certain mini games that we have where you can gamble and wager this currency, strange coins, which you then use to buy tickets in the raffle. And Meow wrote a dope script for it. It used to be called the Bank Heist. That's kind of the standard one, but he turned it into a raid, and it's pretty cool actually. If you guys ever get a chance to get in there, it's pretty fun.
But that's the whole idea is when Chloe started this out, when we talked about it, the idea was to make a community. And by shifting the changes that we've done in the last couple weeks, we are gearing people and making a more comfortable and more, I guess, like geared environment for people to kind of want to be involved, want to communicate, want to get to know everybody. And the if we have kind of the door open in a better way for people will come and people will be more interested.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me today. A lot of fantastic we covered, very specific to the season. So before we log off here, guys, and we head out, just please reminder to everybody watching, if you have any ideas or feedback you want to provide us, hit us up in the comments section below, or Discord, or the stream, or wherever. We want to hear your feedback so we can make improvements here. We definitely don't want to be wasting our time with stuff nobody wants to watch. So let us know, and that's all I have for you guys. Anything else from you two today?
Well, that should be about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Stay safe, and hope to catch you tomorrow.